beliefs that shape your reality more than your reality shapes your beliefs. That's what I want to talk about today, if you want to talk about it.
Yes, let's get into it. I'm actually really excited because I was just at lunch with a friend yesterday, and we were talking about this concept without realizing this, the phrase.
Right.
You've got a good phrase for it.
Right.
But okay, let's go. I'm ready.
All right, let's dive into it. So first of all, let's just talk about the placebo a little bit, right? And the power of belief and how, there was an interesting study, and I want to get your thoughts on this, okay? They had these kids visualize fighting a monster that represented their cancer, okay? Ooh. These kids took blood samples before and after, and the kids that visualized had significantly higher white blood cell count than the non-visualizers.
Is this true?
This is true.
When was this done?
This is absolutely true. It was probably done in the 80s. I can pull up the actual study.
All right. Well, no, we can let the people comment.
They'll
use chat.
Comment down below and find the study for us. But there's some very fascinating studies. And you can go to
I believe in the
PubMed.
Placebo has definitely been proven to work for a lot of people, which is what makes so many things difficult, because you can have drugs or something that may not help someone, but if somebody believes it's going to help them, then also
it helps them.
Data starts to skew.
So here's the question, because let's walk down that trail a little bit, right? So if the placebo is a real thing and it works, right?
Yes.
And we know it is. My question is this. How did these kids simply visualized a monster, right? That's all they did. It was a symbolic picture of something that represented, it was basically an intention. How did the body know to produce white blood cell counts when most of these kids don't even know what a white blood cell is?
You mean themselves consciously?
Right.
Yeah.
So how did the body do that?
That's wild.
So we have to say, well, somewhere there's this innate intelligence within all of us that actually is influenced by intention. What?
Well, I'm just thinking how powerful that is. I mean, my mind was just blown a little bit right there.
A little bit?
Well, think of that actual phrase.
On a scale from 0 to 10, how much? Okay, I'm just kidding. All right. But yeah, no, right. So here's the thing. We live in an intention-driven universe. Now, the hard part for a lot of people is to stretch it outside of the physical body. Yet, if you're a believer in Christianity, right? Peter walked on water.
That was outside the physical.
Right? That's outside his physical reality. And what did Christ say when he started to get distracted by the big scary waves and the doubt and the fear?
Fear not.
O ye of
little faith.
Little faith. And he grabbed him by the hand and pulled him back up.
And cool that Peter actually tried
it.
Everybody else stayed in the boat. Think of that. Like, there's a lesson right there.
Right.
How many people actually stay in their comfort zone?
Right.
Versus somebody who puts this to the test.
Yeah.
Peter did that.
So that's cool. And I know there's people that go, well, that was, some people believe that's a metaphor, right? And they don't think that really happened. I've heard a lot of people make that argument. And okay, fine. It's still a powerful metaphor, right? Fine. Take it for what it is, but it's still incredibly powerful. So
the placebo's still going to work.
The placebo's still going to work. Well, and that's the thing. It's like, if it's going to impact your health, right? Your thoughts, your beliefs, your expectations, your intentions are impacting your health, then why aren't we utilizing that every single day in our lives if we know it works? And for people that are like, well, I don't know if it works or not, just go look at all the studies on PubMed around the topic of visualization. Visualization, what I've learned, is a critical piece in the placebo. But have you heard of Schrodinger's cat?
I have no idea what you just said.
Whenever I say that, my wife's like, what is that? What are you talking about? Your conspiracy theories. Okay, Schrodinger's cat. Very interesting experiment that was done with the idea was to try to disprove quantum physics, right?
Okay.
So quantum physics, basically, is it okay if we get into a little bit of quantum today?
Because quantum's always a fun topic because the observer moves things around.
We're talking about the observer effect.
All right.
Right?
Let's get into
that's where I'm going.
Let's get into
You know what I'm talking about. Okay. So in quantum physics, okay, there's a thing called Schrodinger's cat, right? This Schrödinger, right? I think he was a German scientist. I'm not sure.
I need my laptop here so I can be fact checking.
Do you want to fact check it? I'll let the audience fact check me on this. Anything I say, write in the comments if you can prove me wrong on this, okay? So anyway, what it was you have these quarks, these photons, right? These subatomic particles, right? It's basically particles of light. And they can either be an upspin, a downspin, so positive, negative. But the weird thing, they can be both positive, negative simultaneously. So which doesn't make sense, right? Because like a light switch, think of a light switch, on, off, and then it can be both on and off at the same time. By the way, for people going, well, I don't know about this quantum physics stuff, go study quantum computers. We have entire computers. Like the cutting edge of computer science right now is quantum physics. Anyway.
Yeah, I had some comments on that, but keep going. Let's get...
Anyway, so the idea, Schrödinger wanted to prove how ridiculous it was and it couldn't possibly be true by devising an experiment, a thought experiment. So he said, well, what if we had a little vial of poison inside a box with a cat? And if it was an upspin, the poison's released. If it's a downspin, nothing happens. What happens when it's both an up and a down spin?
I don't really so explain a little more about how this is working in a box. I don't really get it.
Well, okay, so imagine he has a device hooked up to a little quantum particle, right?
Okay.
That can read whether it's a positive, negative.
Okay, gotcha.
Or and so if it's positive, the poison's released. Negative, nothing happens. But then what happens when it's both on and off? Right? What does the light switch do? And this is where the theory of the multiverse comes in, right? That it actually splits reality, that both realities actually happen simultaneously.
I just watched a really cool movie last night called Source Code.
Yeah?
It was incredible. It actually goes into some of this.
It goes into some of this?
Yeah. You spin off a new future.
Have you heard of the Mandela effect?
Yes.
Nelson Mandela,
yes.
How so many people swear he died in 1980. And he was really like, I think it was 2007 or something. It's recent. But most people look at it and it's like, no, I remember him dying at this. Or another Mandela effect is mirror, mirror on the wall.
Who's the whatever
fairest of them all?
Whatever they want to put in there.
But the saying is mirror, mirror, right? Do you know it says magic mirror on the wall? But you would have sworn it was what?
Mirror, mirror.
And there's millions of people that think the same thing. Now, the weird thing is,
you lied to me. I thought it was magic mirror on the wall.
No,
I'm just kidding.
So mirror, it's interesting because mirror and magic really don't sound. There's a G in there, right?
Right.
That really doesn't sound the same. Yet there's millions of people that will swear to you. I know a lot of people are going to go look it up right now. What does it really say?
Yeah, we need the computer here.
So anyway. So that's an interesting phenomenon, right? So we know that's happening. That's interesting. So let's go a little bit deeper into quantum physics. So there's a guy by the name of Dean Radin.
Well, this is just reminding me of that whole, the two words that people can say. You know, that you hear whatever word you... What is that? What are the two words?
Like an auditory illusion.
Yes,
right?
But what are the two words that they always hear? Like
green needle and brainstorm.
Brainstorm.
And it's interesting, maybe it is that, but here's the weird part. Dean Radin actually created a machine, a device connected to this quantum particle, can measure quantum particles. And he's been able to show beyond statistical probability of doubt that your mind can actually influence the outcome of random numbers being generated.
What?
Yes.
How did he test this?
Rolling dice. He'd have random number generators on his computer and do it over and over and over and have people meditate and visualize and see if they could actually influence the statistical probability of it coming out. And so it was subtle.
We're going to have so many comments on this.
Over. It's interesting. So here's my thing. Again, you can look at it and you can go, well, maybe I believe it, maybe I don't believe it. But just, again, if you're a person of faith, right?
Right.
Then don't you believe that the of the Christian faith anyways, is if you have the faith the size of a mustard seed, you can move a mountain.
Mountains.
Even these
Plural.
things and more shall ye do, right?
Right.
And so all of these things were what? Were they all inside Christ's body? His healings, raising the dead, was not inside of his body. I believe he was trying to teach us that there is basically a matrix we live in that we can influence with our mind, and he showed it.
I have
turning
to choose
water
a
into
red
wine.
or a green pill.
What pill are you going to take, Bryce? Once you can see it, you can't unsee it. So here's an interesting side note. it was interesting that, they'd have these shaman, right? And this is in the book, The Magic of Believing, one of my all-time favorite books, the Claude M. Bristol. In that book, he talks about two really powerful stories. One was a gentleman who was known as the Cat with 9 Lives. He was a fireman that was able to go into all these burning buildings, and he'd always escape alive. And they couldn't figure out how he was doing it. So he told his friend, he goes, one of the younger fire people came to him and said, "Hey, how do you do what you do? I mean, I've seen you escape some really shady things. How do you do it?" And he said, "You promise you're not going to laugh at me if I tell you?" And he goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "My dad was friends with a Native American that taught him a technique that the warriors used to do. They would visualize a white healing light around them before they would go to battle. And he said, every time I go into a fire, I do that same thing." And I'm looking at it and I'm like, again, you could say, well, maybe it's real, maybe it's not, maybe it's a placebo, maybe it's not.
I actually know a guy who actually works for me.
Yeah.
He was promised by his priest that he would be protected while he served in the Army.
Right.
And he had an entire career of about 30 years in the Army. He was known as the guy who would go in when cover was too heavy to retrieve the American bodies, and he would not get hit.
Right. Did you hear about the gal? And I can't remember her name, but it was a gal that she used a system to win things. She won everything from a house, vacations. I mean, she has a whole history, bikes, she was always winning these contests. Beyond statistical probability of somebody winning, she was consistently winning over. Oh, come on.
All she needed to do was win one and then hire a whole bunch of people to help her figure out how to win all the others.
Right. Maybe. But anybody who's it's just really interesting. Does belief only influence the world inside of you, or can belief influence, which I believe,
the world around you?
Does it influence the world around you? And if it does influence the world around you, is there a science to it?
Yeah. How do you magnify it?
Can you understand that? Can you hack that? Biblically speaking, right? There were Moses threw a staff on the ground, right? And what did it do?
Turned into a snake.
And then what did the other guys do?
Did
the same thing. And Moses ate their snakes to show, he had a better snake, right? So he was able.
Go on, I'm following.
Anyway, but that's the key, right? It's like, wow, look at these things throughout history and folklore and legends and all these things. It's written throughout every spiritual text. There's these miraculous healings, and there's this thought of your thoughts creating reality.
So the question that I have is, where are we going with this? So what's the point? Like, how do we actually apply
what's the point of it?
Well, no, I get the idea.
Health, wealth, and happiness.
So how are we going to actually start hacking this?
How do you start hacking it? I think there's a few things that you can do to hack it. Number one is... Do
you feel like you've hacked it?
I feel like I'm not perfect at it, but I've had moments where I've said, wow, this is crazy. Like I've attracted, like, for example, I wanted to work with an NFL player. I just put it out there. I go, I really want to I want to coach an NFL star. That'd be cool. Next thing you know, I get a phone call from an NFL star. And I'm dead serious. So okay.
It's
like those things like, and you go, well, Adam, maybe that's just a coincidence.
No. But this actually just happened to me this week as well.
What?
I needed a framer on one of my buildings I'm putting up. And knew that I needed to have something, and all of a sudden it's like things just line up. And now all of a sudden, what was impossible to have framed last week, when I'm thinking of this week, like there's no way we're going to have all this stuff framed. It's framed.
Yeah.
And my tenant in the lease is like, whoa, at this rate, we're going to be right on target for our lease. It's like, no, I do believe that.
So it's like, well, how do I use this in my everyday life? Here's what you do. You don't get what you want in life, you get what you expect. You don't get what you want in life, you get what you are. You don't chase success, you attract success by the person you become. So becoming that person, it's like instead of chasing the butterflies, become the garden.
Green needle.
Right. And so if you can visualize it and see it and develop that expectation, make it part of your identity.
Right.
I'm going to argue that we are filled with light. Radiation is a form of light, right? We're all giving off light. Everything out here is giving off. It's some form of light. And that light is electromagnetism, which is what? Electricity and magnetics, right? So a thought is also a form of light, electromagnetism. So if I can put out that right thought, I can start to attract those things into my life. It's like, music with resonance, right?
Definitely.
When you pluck a guitar string, right? The same guitar string across the room, or at least close to each other, right? It will vibrate.
They'll vibrate as
right?
well.
And so I think of that as how to apply this is, what do I want? Can I visualize it, see it, which will elevate my success consciousness, and I'll start to draw things into my life. But if you don't believe in that and you're like, well, Adam, I don't believe
I'm just too negative.
So here's the thing. What I say to people that don't believe, it's like, congratulations, you're going to continue to see the world you've always seen.
Yeah. It's very
right?
dangerous. It's very dangerous to have that, that bad apple attitude, because it's true. I mean, everybody always says, oh, a bad apple's going to make the whole cart. Bad apples.
Yeah.
Think of that in your business. Right. If all of a sudden you have a bad apple in your business, you worry about that because, oh no, they're going to start creating this bad. But what we're talking about is the exact opposite.
Yeah.
How do you actually have this light, the idea, the ability to create using your mind, and then how you affect the world around you in that way?
Yeah. Visualizing it and expecting it as if it's here now, right? Because there's a part of your mind that thinks in the now. So if you can visualize it, you can see it and expect it. Now, with visualization, it's great. It can open doors for you. If the universe might pull up in a limousine and open the door for you, but you still got to get in.
Love that concept.
And so it might
and you've got to be able to recognize the limousines for you.
Yeah, you got to recognize, and you got to feel that belief and the deservingness that, hey, I expect
this is mine.
And this is back to the conditioning. Listen to this for a minute. Do you know the percentage of lottery winners that lose their money in the first 5 years that go broke?
It's like 99%.
It's 70%.
Oh, okay. Well,
there's 30% that actually do okay.
A lot.
So a lot of them. So the question is, wait, money, they got money handed to them by the universe, right? They got lucky. They got it. It fell in their lap. And 70% can't handle the money within 5 years. They're broke or even worse off.
That is pretty wild.
Than when they started. We're talking millions, sometimes hundreds of millions of dollars.
So this is going back to a concept I've been thinking about lately. You've got to learn how to say no to certain things in order for the universe to say yes to you. So for instance, if money's handed to me and I don't know how to say no to my spending on that money, and I just say yes and spend all of that money buck wild, well, guess what? The universe has to say no, and it's gone.
Right. So you look at it and you say, well, why does that really happen, right? And it's like, people have poor spending habits, right? When they don't have a lot of money.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And so do you really think those habits are going to change when a bunch of money's dumped in your lap? Do you really think your mindset's going to change? You know, your self-worth, your self-belief?
Well, same thing. I actually heard the same concept with, imagine you woke up tomorrow with the body you wanted. How long could you keep it? You know what I mean? Because it's the same thing with the money being given to you. If you had the body given to you that you wanted with health, the strength, the muscles, everything, the ability to run. Yeah. Do you have those habits to actually maintain that body, or is it going to fall back apart?
You actually touched on a really interesting point, which is the threshold of deservingness. And people talk about the glass ceiling, right? It's like this glass ceiling, we can't break through because whatever, right? But here's the thing. It's like, what if that glass ceiling was more psychological? Yes, obviously there is a real glass ceiling, right? With certain things. And there's, I'm not saying there's not prejudice and things going on in the world today. But psychologically, the question is there a glass ceiling that you psychologically put upon yourself? And so what happens, the question that I want to ask the audience is this. How good can you take it? How good can you stand life getting? Like that perfect body, right? Sometimes people, they feel so good and it's great, but how long can that last? How long, if you get beyond the threshold of deservingness, what happens? So if somebody has a certain set in their mind where they go, well, this is how much money I deserve to make, and they go beyond it, what happens is
they're going to slide back down.
They start to self-sabotage. They make poor decisions until they get back to that set in their mind of where they feel comfortable.
And you see this everywhere.
All the time. In relationships.
Same thing with the opposite way. You see people who are like, oh, I'm worth $250,000 or $1 million a year.
And they get it.
And they go get it.
Right. And then somebody goes, you see this incredibly intelligent person and they're smart and they're talented. And how much are you going to charge for your coaching session? I don't know, like $50. It's like, what are you doing?
Well, there's value. There's value in that mindset. There really is, like you had mentioned, this hack code or this way to be able to look at life in a different way. And people who have learned that have found that wealth, health, success, and life.
If you can relax the mind and get it into that alpha theta brainwave pattern, really nice and relaxed, and you can repeat your vision, you can see it over and over. You can actually rewire your brain. Little by little, your brain, through neuroplasticity, your brain begins the process of rewiring itself.
Physically.
It physically changes. In fact, they did studies on meditators versus non-meditators. Check this out. So a lot of people have stress right now. They're overly stressed and all this. Well, do you know the more stress you feel, the more you practice stress, the amygdala, which is the part of the brain responsible for the fight or flight, actually increases. Meditators,
as in it grows?
It actually gets a little bit bigger. Yeah, it gets more, more connections. It becomes, basically you build the habit of it, and it's like a muscle. You strengthen it. It grows. And so the same thing with the prefrontal cortex. Do you know that the gray matter in the brain actually is increased in meditators versus non-meditators? Meditators that meditated for 45 minutes a day for 90 days had an increase in the gray matter in their brain and a shrinkage, a smaller size in the fight or flight part of the brain. I always
heard gray matter was bad. You're saying gray matter is good?
Gray matter in the brain is a good thing, yes.
Really?
And it actually became more organized as well.
Okay, keep going. I've got a computer here now.
You're looking at you're like, wait, can meditation increase the gray matter in the brain? Nice thing we have ChatGPT. Ask it. Okay, what's it say?
It says gray matter is essential for brain function.
No, right? If meditation can increase gray matter in the prefrontal cortex.
Can meditation increase gray matter in the frontal cortex?
All the stuff you say you can look up, my friend.
Right here. Well, now I am. So yes, meditation has been shown to increase gray matter in the frontal cortex and other brain regions associated with cognitive function.
Okay. And so do you know that the front part of the brain, which is the executive decision-making part of the brain, right? That part of the brain is what makes us human, cool, calm, and collected. The animalistic part of us, the parts that, the anger and the parts that the jealousy and all that exists in that amygdala. So meditation can actually shrink that part and increase the part up here. Basically, we become more human. We become more evolved. Yeah.
Here's the study.
Go ahead.
2011 study by Sarah Lazar at Harvard found that just 8 weeks of mindfulness meditation led to increased gray matter density in these areas. You were saying 90 days.
Yeah.
This is 60 days.
So it's even shorter. Okay. Well, there you go. But that's the power of it.
I'm so glad I fact-checked you.
You're so glad.
Because my life could be better even faster.
Yeah, you can hack it. Go even faster now. Absolutely. But that's the beauty of all this, right? It doesn't have to take forever. You can shift and you can rewire and you can begin the process of becoming a brand new person. Look at how long it takes for every cell in the body to regenerate. I believe it's 11 months.
How long does it take for every cell in the body to regenerate?
Somebody was saying it was 90 days, but I wanted to make sure I got it right. About 11 months, around 11 months to a year is what I think.
Oh no, we're losing connection.
All right, get the connection.
There's a storm out there right now.
I know, we're battling through a storm.
Okay, it says skin cells 2 to 4 weeks, red blood cells 120 days, liver
entire
cells
body
6 months, bone cells 10 years.
Bone cells are 10 years. Okay.
Heart muscle cells, some renewal, but mostly last a lifetime.
Okay.
So it says, while many cells replace themselves, some, like certain neurons and heart muscle cells, do not regenerate significantly, meaning the idea of a completely new body over time is not entirely accurate. However, within 7 to 10 years, the majority of the body cells.
The majority of the body does replace. So isn't that fascinating, though?
But I'm sure you could take that apart and say, okay, well, which ones are actually important for the discussion we're going to have?
Yeah.
Because that's the whole system.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. So I had a client who she had a huge brain tumor, and she had to go get it operated on, right? And the thing is, she was this very beautiful, beautiful woman. She was actually a model by her profession, right? Very, very well-known model. And so, but she had this brain tumor, so she's freaking out, right? And they're like,
that would be scary, and you don't want that.
So she's praying, and she's like, okay, everything's going to be good. And she goes in, and they do the surgery, and everything was good. I mean, she survived, right? But there was one big problem. Half her face was paralyzed, like totally drooped. As a model, I mean, this is devastating to her, right? This ends her career, and she was just like, and so much of her identity at the time was attached to that being a model. So she's in the doctor's office, and the doctor's just like, hey, I'm sorry, but you're going to be paralyzed on the left side of your face for the rest of your life. And she said, I don't know what's welled up inside of me, but something's just welled up and said, I will have my face moving again in 6 months. And she's saying this with the drooped face. And the doctor...
She said it inside of her, or she said it...
She said it to the doctor. She just blurted it out. Like something in her soul welled up, and she's like, I will be healed in 6 months. And the doctor looked at her and said, that's so nice of you to say that, and you believe that, and nice. But, those brain cells aren't going to regenerate. And she said, they're going to regenerate. She sat in front of the mirror for 6 months and visualized her face moving. Month 1, nothing happens. Month 2, nothing happens. Yes. And she's visualizing herself smiling and her face moving. Month 3, month 4, month 5, all the way. How many people?
How long are you saying she's sitting here? Like 8 hours a day?
She's doing it for a solid amount of time. I think about an hour a day. And she's doing these routines and visualizing and practicing. I mean, it's intense, right? If you look at like Joe Dispenza's book, he spent 2 hours a day in meditation to heal his back, which he did naturally.
Wow.
Anyway, so she's doing this. How many of us would be able to go 5 months without seeing any results? Like nothing. And you're just staring at your face. And it's looking like this. She said literally on month 6 to the day, she felt a tiny tingle in her face. By the time she's done, she ended up regrowing those brain cells and regenerated 80% movement in her face. Like I saw her, you couldn't even tell. And so the doctors, it actually became a huge breakthrough because they didn't think brain cells regrew, right? We were taught what? Brain cells don't regrow. She proved that they do. They actually have the MRI of her brain, and they can see the before and afters, and her brain cells have regrown.
And you've seen her.
Yeah, I've seen her. So here's an interesting...
And her face isn't noticeably droopy.
So, yeah, it's not noticeably droopy. So here's an interesting side note, okay? Did you know that there's these flathead worms? Okay? There's these flathead worms. Was that too much of a segue for you? You're like, whoa, okay, we're going to bring it back. I'm weaving here. Okay, just trust me. Trust the process here. So there's these flathead worms that you can actually blast with electricity. So the guy learned that certain frequencies could make a one-headed flatworm become a two-headed flatworm, which is kind of interesting. Well, when the two-headed flatworm reproduces, he thought, well, it's just going to go back to a one-headed flatworm, right? Because I'm not changing the DNA. It's just something happened with that one unit. But what they found is that it actually changed the DNA, the structure of the DNA.
Did he turn it into four-headed worms?
No. But it was actually two flat. And you can look this up. Look at the flathead worm experiment.
You can I know you can get two-headed worms.
So it's really interesting. But here's the thing: the DNA actually changed based on the electricity, the bioelectricity, the signature that he found. Well, here's the interesting thing. Do you know salamanders grow their arms back, right?
Right.
When they're growing their arms back, there's a significant spike in the bioelectricity. The scientists, and now they're starting to learn this, if they match that bioelectricity, they've actually been able to regenerate limbs within mammals. And they're working on doing that in humans now. And so what's interesting is that influencing the energy.
Regrow limbs in mammals?
Yes. The electricity.
Keep going.
Fact check that. The electricity in the body can actually influence the DNA. It can influence a lot of amazing things. What are you finding?
Keep going. It's too broad at the moment because it's like deer antlers, mouse fingertips. Mouse fingertips. Small portions of their nail bed and stuff can grow back.
Yeah.
And some children can also do that with human fingertips.
See if there's a study that's been done specifically around a mammal losing a limb and regenerating it.
Research into stem cells, gene editing, and tissue engineering is exploring ways to activate regenerative pathways in mammals in order to do basically what you're saying.
Yes. So anyway, it's ongoing studies. I don't know. I don't think it's well known right now out there, but they are starting to find that they can.
It does
regenerate.
say breakthroughs in regenerative medicine.
Yes.
Could one day.
But how amazing is that?
So the almighty ChatGPT does agree that maybe there's a possibility.
The electrical charge, the bioelectricity in your body has the ability to influence stem cells in your body. In fact, down to your DNA, right? This bioelectrical charge. Here's the interesting thing. So the question is, can I raise my bioelectrical charge? And my answer to that is absolutely yes. We all know when we feel...
How can you measure that?
You can measure it through like EEG machines, right? You can measure the electricity in your brain. EKG, you can measure it in your heart. There's ways of measuring. Do you know that your heart field, according to Heart Math Institute, you can actually measure the electricity in your heart outside of your body. So this is what many spiritual leaders would call the aura, right? So the aura is a real thing. Look at the pictures of Christ. He's got the halo. He's got a glowing head, right? There is an aura. There is an energy that you're carrying around with you.
Well, in art, they do that just to depict who's the holy.
Right.
Same thing with angels with wings. They got.
But also, well, let me put it this way. Have you noticed when somebody walks in the room, the energy changes?
Oh, sure.
Okay. So we all know that that's a real thing.
Yes.
Okay. So yes, I know it's metaphorical because you can't see it, so they have to draw it. But yeah, we actually do feel people's presence, right? And another interesting fact, did you know that dogs and their dog owners, when they're in rapport, their heart rates will sync up?
Well, I actually heard that humans would do that too.
Yes.
So for instance, if I was watching you on the news and you're up at some news channel that you always wanted to, and your heart rate was a certain way, mine would sync to you if I cared about you. If
you're in rapport, right. And you could say, well, how does it do that? Is it energy? Is it the tone of your voice and your subconscious is picking up on it? Is it just visual? And it could be. It could be all of those things. I'm just saying, look, isn't it interesting, all these connections and the things we're starting to discover about the universe and how things work, and bringing it all back to how does the average person apply this? This all sounds great, but how do I apply this? Visualizing your life, expecting it, believing in yourself is going to open up a world that you simply can't see right now. And if you do that consistently, you're going to watch your life transform in amazing ways. I know that's happened for me personally. I've seen amazing things. Like I wanted to speak in front of thousands of people. And I said, I want to speak in front of thousands of people. Next thing you know, I'm on stage with Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank, speaking in front of thousands of people.
Wonderful.
Mr. Wonderful. I was introducing Mr. Wonderful and the MC for the entire event down in Tampa. And so it had to do with this and the NFL player and you go through becoming an inventor and all these things. It's like all of this has to do with the power of belief.